Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Benson Team's Beyond the Block, your podcast on all things real estate, from advice for agents to tips for buyers and sellers and beyond. My name is Brad, your host, and today I'm here with one of Scott Benson Team's top producers, Jake Stern.
Ooh, wow.
How you doing, Jake?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Happy to be here.
That's great. Jake, we just have a few questions, but before we get into some of the topics, I just want to hear kind of more about you, maybe your professional story and how you became one of the top producers at Scott Benson's team.
Well, it's very kind of you to say that, but yeah, very quickly, the Coles Notes version of my professional story would be starting actually in a totally different field than real estate. I always had a passion for singing and acting, and so I pursued that as much as I could. Was very fortunate to have a professional career in singing and acting, and that took me all over the world doing different concerts and shows and musicals, and ended up singing with a couple different vocal groups, and met my wife while I was touring in the States. That kind of made me go, okay, you know what, I think I want to change this up a bit, don't want to be traveling as much, and then really thought about what would be an awesome fit for me moving forward. And real estate, working with people, being in front of people, love the traveling when it comes to real estate. I'm just like, okay, this is checking all the boxes. Let's go for this, see how it goes. And then fast forward now 4 or 5 years into the business, things are going really well, and I love it so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then today we're going to kind of talk about some different topics. First is going to be kind of the impact of being a part of a mega team, because I know when you first started in real estate, you were more going solo route.
Yeah.
So you have a unique perspective with that. And then we're going to kind of talk about maybe from both the client's perspective and an agent's perspective on how to choose the right mega team or broker for that matter. And then we're going to kind of finalize it with how to deal with tough personalities, because in this business and sales in general too, it's sometimes tough with some personalities working with people as well. So kind of tackle some topics on that. So first question on the matter of the impact of being a part of a mega team is, how does working within a mega team differ from managing everything independently?
Very good question. It's been a newer experience for me being on a team. I've spent a lot of years as an individual agent. You're doing, individual, everything by yourself. It's 100% by yourself. Of course, you have a brokerage that helps you with certain things, and different brokerages offer different programs to help train you. But when you're an individual, you are accountable to you and you alone. It's on you and you alone. As you know, when it comes to managing all of your contracts, arranging showings for buyers, and facilitating showings for sellers, negotiating, like everything is 100% on you. And so while that can bring a lot of, it can be a very cool experience when you've done it all yourself and you achieve those goals, it can also swing this the other way, where if something goes wrong, it's 100% on you. You have nobody to fall back on. And then you can swing that over now, comparing it to a mega team experience, where just a team experience in general, you have so much support while you're doing your own thing. So it's the best of both worlds. You still get to have that individual, like, I'm going after it. I'm still accountable to myself and how I do, but I have all of this support now, which just kind of adds as like this rocket booster to my career and to my success.
Absolutely. And then how does joining that mega team affect your individual growth and development?
I think that the word I would keep using is accountability. So you're, again, individual agent, accountable to yourself. It's 100% on you. Of course, there's always, you have your broker record that is going to be trying to keep you accountable. But with the team, when you talk, we probably would get into this, but when you're thinking about how leads are distributed, or the team success is kind of dependent on you. And when you're handling a lot of transactions, that element of having that accountability from the team really helps to keep you in line and in check. There's always somebody, whether it's your team leader or other agents on the team, that are encouraging you and, reminding you, hey, you're doing this way. Why don't you try it this way? Whereas, again, as an individual agent, you really are more on your own.
Absolutely. And then within that team, you probably have some different resources and tools as compared to on your own. So what specific resources and tools does the team provide that would enhance your productivity or streamline some of the tasks that you would do compared to working solo?
Yeah. Marketing, number one.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
we've often talked about this as a team, and thinking in a market where maybe things are becoming a bit more balanced.
Hmm.
Marketing is so huge,
Hmm.
and there is no way in heck I can facilitate some sort of environment where I'm pushing out the money needed to market properties or to market a brand or to garner the attention of other people that want to work for the team and to help, build that support of the team. There's no way I can do that on my own. It's
Hmm.
just it's impossible. So if I was just to even highlight just one key component, it's going to be your marketing and admin support. There's no way I can do it all on my own, and there's no way I can, you know, market a property on my own the way a team could.
Hmm. Absolutely. And then maintaining from that marketing perspective, personal brand identity and client relationships. How can you maintain those two aspects in your professional journey
Mm,
while being a part of a team's overall approach and that value based perspective as well?
yeah. I think a good analogy for that is like a marriage.
Mm.
Um, you know, in my mind, a marriage is two becoming one. But when you become one, it doesn't mean that you're not an individual anymore.
Mm.
But by coming together, you actually help to amplify like the best version of yourself. At least that's what it should look like. I think a team in real estate is a lot like that.
Yeah.
You're not as bound as you are, in a contract with a marriage. However, the idea of coming together in a way that allows for maximum potential with the individual
Hmm.
really, really, really helps.
Yeah, yeah, and even that dialogue, because I've even had chats where, like in a marriage, you can definitely notice your flaws a bit more,
Hmm.
and so yeah, when you talk about that accountability, it's definitely
Absolutely.
very evident as well in a team approach.
Hmm.
And does being part of a mega team enhance an agent's professional network? Have you noticed that at all?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. The team has a brand.
Yeah.
A brand is recognized throughout, you know, at least in our area, it's recognized throughout Oakville, Toronto,
Hmm.
GTA area. People know the Scott. If we're just talking about the Scott Benson team, people know the Scott Benson team. When you say, "Hey, what are you doing in real estate?" Like the first thing I don't say, "Hey, I'm Jake. I'm in real estate." I
Hmm.
will say, "Hey, I'm in real estate. I'm on the Scott Benson team." And I would say 9.9 times out of 10,
Hmm.
people are like, "Oh yeah, the Scott Benson team. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I see him. I see him everywhere." And so the automatically just by being associated with not just a team and a brand, but a recognizable brand and a successful brand
Hmm.
already enhances and gives you credibility that you wouldn't otherwise have if you're just starting out on your own, or even if you've had a successful career on your own. Branding and a big team and a big successful team is powerful.
Absolutely, for sure. And then shifting into kind of the client's perspective on choosing the right mega team, because I know there's a few different options, even just in comparison to an individual agent. Um, how does a mega team ensure that clients receive that personalized attention despite the team size? Because a mega team, it's so big, there's so many different agents a part of it. How can you maintain that personalized attention?
Mm. This is probably one of my favorite talking points when I'm meeting,
Mm.
in particular, a seller client, when I know there's other teams that are up against
Hmm.
me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, how do we distinguish ourselves as a Scott Benson team to make sure they know that it's not just this big team blanketing over them and they're not going to get that personalized experience.
Hmm.
It's the first thing I say is that what's amazing is you get this mega team exposure, you get the mega team administrative support, marketing, etc. But you get this individual broker one-on-one experience. I'm going to
Hmm.
be the one that's going to be in contact with you pretty well 100% of the time. I'm going to be facilitating it, but there's going to be this big blanket of support behind me as
Hmm.
I do that. And that seems to, I'm noticing that people are really, really wanting that right now. They want the marketing dollars, they want the big brand, but they want that one-on-one broker experience that
Hmm.
kind of helps them get from the part A of the transaction all the way to part Z.
Absolutely. And then what systems does a mega team have in place to keep those clients informed, and even just your personal systems on the topic of personalized attention? What kind of processes do you have to help them stay engaged throughout that buying or selling process?
Yeah. I'm like high level communicator. I
Mm.
love it's a 24/7 job for me. My
Yeah.
wife can probably attest to that. Probably too much. Balance is always good. However,
Mhm.
this is a full-time gig.
Yeah.
This is an around the clock gig now.
Mhm.
Um, an important kind of cool thing to note as I've been talking with consumers over the past few years is everybody has access to real estate information at their fingertips like they do with everything else.
Yeah.
And so, with different apps that are out there, clients are constantly messaging, asking for updates on prices, what's sold over here.
Mhm.
Hey, what happened with that showing that just happened? I want to know, I want the information now. And so I think routine is really important.
Mhm.
Balance
Yeah.
and boundaries is good, but routine when it comes to knowing, okay, if I have, 5 to 10 listings that I'm handling, I know, certain clients, depending on what they're wanting,
Mm.
I know that I'm going to be getting back to them on feedback, within a couple days after it lists. I'm going to make sure that before we even meet, here's the expectation of what's going to happen. It's just there are many systems you can put in place to make sure that people have all the information they need to feel like they're being taken care of
Mhm.
very well, and that just comes with experience.
Yeah.
There is a bit of trial and error. Sometimes you give too much of yourself to clients, and then you get burnt out, and that's not good. And but then sometimes you're not you're not communicating enough, and the client can feel like they're not getting that service that they should be getting. And
Mhm.
so experience really does help with that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And branching off of that, how does a mega team handle communication among multiple agents to provide clients with that seamless experience?
Hmm. Good question too. Yeah, there's so many amazing systems in place. I think the key is there's power in numbers. So if you
Mhm.
have a couple admin support, if you have a couple marketing members on your team, if you have you have different buyer specialist agents on a team, you have seller specialist agents on the team, you have a team leader. Sometimes you have sales managers on a team. Like sometimes you have these different leadership roles within the actual team that helps to facilitate better communication to a client. One person can't do it all.
Yeah.
So leaning on each other and already having those measures in place to help with that communication is great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the unique aspects of mega teams is that you have some some roles that are played by different agents.
Hmm.
And so, what level of expertise and specialization does the team offer across different aspects of real estate? So, whether that be residential, luxury, and or commercial, and what of those aspects do you see yourself drawing most towards?
Yeah. A team, a team functions with roles that are somewhat distinguished and
Mm-hmm.
defined.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be agents that are better at working with buyers. There's going to be some better at working with sellers. And then, if you were just to do buyer and seller categories within those two categories, you have
Mm-hmm.
subcategories of if it's selling, you're selling high end real estate, or you're
Yeah.
selling midline real estate, or you're selling entry level real estate, or you break that down into areas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yep.
not just luxury, but some people specialize in this area of Oakville, or it's in this area of the Niagara region, and everybody has a place
Mm-hmm.
on a team, and that's what's so powerful about it is no role is greater than another. Everybody, just based on their personality, based on their experience, based on their performance, is able to put themselves into that different category. And for me personally, it's been an evolving thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started real estate, it was whatever. It was like, I will take whatever,
Yeah. Yep.
give me anything. And I sold some pretty wild stuff from the ranges of low 300,000 all the way up to millions of dollars, and it was
Yeah.
just, or all the way from a rental property to commercial, like
Yeah.
it was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm finding I'm focusing on more now is I'm really enjoying the Oakville Burlington area.
Yeah.
I love working with sellers.
Mm-hmm.
I personally enjoy handling multiple different listings at a time. I actually enjoy the administrative process and kind of
Okay.
keeping things organized
Yeah.
and keeping tabs with everybody. I love meeting new people.
Yeah.
So the idea of hopping in my car and driving to an appointment to meet somebody brand new would maybe freak people out if you had to do that,
Mm-hmm.
multiple times a week. That's something that's very exciting for me. I
Okay.
love meeting new
Yeah.
people, love trying to build rapport with people, and then love kind of seeing them from that beginning of the listing process to the end.
Okay. Awesome. And then what uh, would be the best advice you'd give to someone who is looking to choose a realtor, whether it be various mega teams or
Mm.
individual agents? If you could take the bias out as a realtor, what would be the best advice you give someone?
Yeah. Well, number one, make sure they're on the Scott Benson team.
Ah, yes.
Yes. Number one. Scott told me to say that.
Yeah.
But it's actually true. So after you've gotten through that point, you know what? I'm going to again say this. It really has become a 24/7 on-call profession because the consumer is always watching real estate. Everybody loves to talk real estate. Everybody can find real estate in all these different apps. You have to be available. I think you have to be available, and you have to be able to maintain constant communication with people. We live in that world.
Yeah.
And of course, boundaries are good, balance is good, but most people want to be updated constantly on what's happening with their listing, or buyers want to be updated on what's happening in the market. So someone who's highly communicative, I think, is number one. Real estate is moving very quickly towards a high technology based industry and an online technology based industry. So you kind of have to know what you're doing with that, because not only are you able to help explain it to your clients, but you can actually interact with the buyers. That's how buyers are interacting now with real estate. So understanding how to work different platforms is very, very important. And then I think, if I was to kind of blanket those things, there's more we could talk about with that, but blanket that all with integrity. Integrity is huge. It's very, when you know a lot about a certain profession or have a skill set in real estate, it can become easy to, get your own way, or to operate in a way that could be unethical because it serves your own needs. I think instead, people want a genuine agent who operates with high integrity, that they know that their needs are being met first, not the agent, and not the team. And there's a way to accomplish all of that within one package of an agent. And I find a lot of them are on the Scott Benson team. So again, C.1, Scott Benson team first.
Yeah. I think values are a big component in that, as you're saying, like, because a lot of these mega teams have like their set kind of slogan or whatnot. But if it's aligning with your values, and then from that, there's a lot of trust, right? Which is a big benefit.
Yeah, of course.
For sure. And then shifting to kind of agent perspective on choosing whether they should join a mega team or what mega team to join. How well does a mega team's culture align with personal values and goals? And does it foster collaboration or competition?
Yeah. Again, what I can answer about that is the team leader matters. I think that there's likely team leaders out there that are either very hands-on or they're in the background, and they've kind of set their team in motion. And that's good for them. If that works for them, that's great. And the agents on the team kind of operate within their own ability. But what I'm going to bring it back to the Scott Benson team, is the Scott Benson within the Scott Benson team is he's hands-on. He's a fantastic mentor. So having a team leader who is able to cast the right vision, who leads by example, and has proven that he can get the job done. Scott is very results driven, and he's an excellent example when it comes to looking. So I think that matters, that the team leader matters when it comes to looking at that.
For sure. Absolutely. And then what specific resources and training or mentorship, as you mentioned, opportunities does the team provide to help agents succeed and grow? And maybe if you could share just like a nugget of some of that expertise that you've learned since you've joined.
Yeah. Markets change. Markets change. That's been, I've just been very reminded of that. We looked a couple years ago when the market was on fire and super inflated. There was a strategy that worked, and you could do it 99% of the time, and it would work 99% of the time. But of the value that a team can provide is perspective. So you're going to have agents on that team that have been around for 20, 30 years. You're going to have people who have seen different markets, the ups and downs, and have been there. I recently celebrated, my 100th deal in real estate.
Congratulations.
But thank you. But I was reminded very quickly that, okay, there's lots of different types of markets out there, and we're entering a market that's very different than a few years ago. And likely in 5 to 10 years from now, it's going to be a very different market. So the expertise that a team can provide to be able to say, hey, hey, Jake, don't worry. We've seen this kind of market before. We're going to get through it. This is what we're going to do to adjust. A team leader who's able to recognize that and be the leader to say, okay, what we did 2 years ago is not working. Let's talk about what is working. Let's get the expertise from people who have been around and let's implement that and, be that leader within the community in real
Mm-hmm.
estate.
Yeah, absolutely. And then shifting to kind of dealing with tough personalities. You seem very extroverted, as you mentioned, like meeting new people, love to do it.
Uh,
Um, but I have no doubt you probably face some tough
sure.
personalities in this job.
Yeah.
Um, so, what are some effective strategies for setting clear boundaries with clients who
Mm.
may have high expectations or demands?
Yes. It's a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that what you need to constantly do with maybe some of these people who can be a bit tougher to deal with is recognize first what they're trying to do,
Yeah.
regardless of a buyer or seller. What's the end goal?
Mm-hmm.
Once you've established the end goal, that's always a talking point you can come back to.
Okay. Yeah.
Different, people handle stress differently.
Mm-hmm.
If you throw out an example of a seller who has multiple mortgages that are due and there's a lot of financial stress, they've been told they need to sell the place in X amount of weeks, otherwise the bank is going to take it over. That's stressful. I get stressed
Mm-hmm.
just thinking about that.
Yeah.
However, you can very easily take that type of person and say, well, listen, let's talk about the end goal. The end goal is to get the place sold before
Mm-hmm.
somebody else sells it for you. Try to get as much equity out of this property. That's what we want, right?
Yeah.
Right. And again, it's a lot of open-ended questions to bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
It's never really asserting and dominance over them. That tends to not work.
Mm-hmm.
It's about going, listen, I'm on your team, right? This is the Scott Benson team. We are on your team. We are here to support you 100%, and we're going to support you in the common goal, which is to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as that you bounce back to that, then you deal with the hurdles getting in the way of how this person is thinking about that end goal. And that's I've heard that said a lot. Scott mentions it a lot. Sometimes buyers and sellers are they're in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And after you remind them of the goal, remind them
Yeah.
that you're there to support them with the goal. Now let's kind of walk back and see where we're getting stuck. Like what
Mm-hmm.
pothole have we just stepped in that we need to step out of to continue walking towards that goal? And then I think surrounding that is my stress is not going to help the situation.
Mm.
So even if I am stressed about it, even if I'm taking on a bit of the stress of this client who's a little bit tougher to deal with, adding it to the mix is
Mm.
definitely not going to help. So that has to
Mm-hmm.
stay at the door. This is business.
Yeah.
I if I just met this person or I've only been with them for a couple months, they're not my best friend. They're not my family member. They've hired me to do a job. The job
Mm-hmm.
is to get this done. So how can I get them from here to here? And then along the way, kind of help them out of those potholes that maybe they can get themselves
Mm-hmm.
into, without projecting the stress. It's easier said than done. But again,
Yeah.
experience. Once you've gone through it enough, once
Yeah.
you have team members that you can rely on to say, "Hey, I'm going through this.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been through this before?" "Oh, you have? Great. How do we, can you help me out here? How do we get through this?" So that the team support can be a huge help too when you're
Mm-hmm.
managing those type of clients.
Absolutely. And would you say those are like the top things for kind of managing stress or maintaining patience when dealing with kind of the challenging client perspectives?
Yes, I can. I can remember It's funny. Me and my wife can remember the first deal I ever did,
Okay. Yeah.
and we talked about this recently. And it's just funny because when I was doing my first deal, I was so stressed,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know how to manage it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never been to this part of the process. Now my client is a little bit frustrated that this is happening. I don't know what
Yeah.
to do. I've never been through this. Fast forward years later, again, 100 deals later,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, now I'm managing 10 deals at a time.
Yeah.
I have a couple buyers we're doing deals with. I have X amount of deals pending. It's like,
Mm.
okay, experience. I've
Yeah.
been through this. And that to me has been the number one way to manage the stress. Like I try
Mm-hmm.
not to talk about this at home. I have, people like other agents I can talk to if there's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
I have my own personal beliefs that help me to process different stress,
Mm-hmm.
to help put things in perspective. But from a business perspective, experience has been the game changer. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I've been through this. It's going to be okay. And guess what? If for some reason this deal blows up, which thankfully none ever have, it's
Mm-hmm.
not the end of the world. And what matters most is I try to take care of this person here and I try to get this deal done. And I do it in a way that operates with fairness, honesty, and integrity. And if I
Yeah.
can check those three, regardless of the outcome, that's fulfilling to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then on the topic of kind of maintaining that professionalism, how can you balance empathy and professionalism when working with clients who have strong or emotional reactions
Yeah.
to different circumstances.
I'm sure agents out there can resonate with this. It's
Mm.
very easy to take on the stress or take on the emotion that your client is feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I've been at fault for this before. I can remember seasons of my career where if my client was stressed about something, I'm
Yeah.
stressed.
Yeah.
If my client is super happy, I'm super happy. If you know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized that's not healthy.
Mm.
It's okay to have little swings here and there. Of course, that's
Yep.
life. Things happen, good things and bad things. Um, Managing that though comes down to, this is a business transaction. They have hired me for a service. They've hired me to do this. That's the goal. And it's almost like I'm sprinting towards that goal with them, or I'm walking towards that goal with them. And I'm, the clothes I'm wearing is empathy. So
Mm.
that's the goal. Like, the goal is not for me to be the most empathetic real estate agent, and not achieving the goal of buying or selling a property. It's, we're buying and selling a property, so let's
Mm-hmm.
go do that.
Yep.
But I'm going to clothe myself with as much kindness and empathy as possible. And sometimes the kind thing to do, this is going to be a misconception with kindness, and just truth in general. Sometimes the misconception is the kind thing to do is to, you know, give the seller what they want emotionally rather than what they're looking for from a business perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And you can break that down to, one example would be, if you know that the price of the property you're trying to sell is a bit too high, you're getting that feedback from the buyers out there, you're trying to figure out a way to talk to the seller. It's very easy to go, I'm going to, maybe try to care for my seller's emotional needs first and be very empathetic to this feedback rather than telling them the truth.
Mm.
It doesn't actually
Mm-hmm.
serve them the purpose, because the end goal is to get the property sold for what the buyers are willing to pay,
Yeah.
to the best of your ability, not to coddle people's emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a recent, over the past couple of years, it's been a mental switch.
Yeah.
Trying my best to go, okay, the goal is to sell this property or to help them buy. And I'm going to, cloak myself in empathy while I do it, but not let the empathy get in the way of the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that didn't come across harsh.
No, that was great. That was great. That was a perfect analogy, and in the balance
Yeah,
that you have to
my
maintain.
clients,
Right?
can attest to, it's, see, I'm a very diplomatic
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
I tend to lean on the side of being non-confrontational.
Mm.
But when the time comes, like when you have to share truth with your buyer client or seller client, you have to share the truth, because that's going to be what's best for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is still a business. I'm still here trying to, grow my business and make money and try to support the team. And we need to get these deals done. So let's get them done, and
Yeah.
let's try to do it as kind as possible, but without withholding the truth if needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And honesty is such a big component to even trust as
Yeah.
an agent as well. So that can carry on throughout your journey as well. And then last question is, what proactive communication techniques can help you prevent misunderstandings with clients who have a tendency to micromanage or question the process a lot?
Yes. Yes. Again, trial and error.
Mm.
Once you've been through the process of dealing with a client who can be high maintenance, bless them, there are high maintenance people out there. It's such a complex, you could unpack this on so many levels, but
Mm-hmm.
to try to keep it simple, you have to empathize and put yourself in their position. This, for most people, this is the largest asset that they have, and they're entrusting you to help sell it. So it's okay. Like, first of all, it's okay for clients to want to have, more of a hands-on experience. This is their money. They
Mm-hmm.
hired me. Like, you do want to try to be diplomatic, and you want to care for their needs. Um, I think asserting a bit of authority at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
is better than trying to do it at the end. Once you've allowed maybe a more high maintenance client to push you, or to kind of be the authority in the transaction, it's
Yeah.
very difficult to gain that back. And I don't mean that in any kind of, domineering way, other than you're the hired professional. This is your job. You've done X amount of deals. Your team does X amount of deals a year. Like, if you're, if I'm meeting a client, I'm talking about the Scott Benson team, it's
Mm-hmm.
asserting, hey, let's talk about our results first so that you're in good hands, and to also reassure you we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We sell 26% faster than any other team. We're selling a
Mm-hmm.
home a day. We're over $1 billion in real estate. We have 1,100 plus 5-star Google reviews. We know what we're doing. We're excited about it. Now let's talk about how we're going to serve you. And that approach of, hey, we're going to help you. This is what it's going to look like. This is what has worked in the past. This is the road to success. Do you want to come on this road to success? Let's partner on this road to success. That at the beginning helps to mitigate most of that tension that can come with maybe a more high maintenance client.
Okay. And then would you just kind of remind them of that a bit if they're still kind of
Yeah, there's some people where you can do all the reminding you want, and they tend to that's just who they are.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's where you have to have thick skin. Like you go, you know what, this person is maybe this is how they're externalizing their stress about the whole situation, and I can take a bit of that on the chin, knowing that they know they're in good hands. And there's certain structure measures in place where you can set up different meetings with them to say, listen, at this point of the process, we're going to meet and I'm going to talk to you about this, so that they're not, if you're talking about showing feedback or when offers are going to come in, you can set up a parameter. We use different systems. After 20, 21 days, we like to sit down with our clients if the property hasn't sold already, and go over the feedback. Go over how many days it's been on market, go over what we could do to improve this. And so when you set that expectation up front, you say, listen, I'm going to, of course I'm available, but we are going to have an intentional meeting about this at this time. We will talk about it here. Let's wait to talk until we get to this point about these kind of things. That helps to mitigate that. Yeah.
And then they can bring all their questions to that appointment, and it
That's
kind of,
right.
yeah.
And then if all else fails, if it's not working, the do not disturb function on your phone is fantastic.
Yep. Work-life balance.
Work-life balance. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, awesome. That's all the questions I had for you today. Thanks so much for all that insight and for joining me today and on Beyond the Block. And so that's all we have for today. Thanks for listening.